All right, back to I'm Bob, I'm an alcoholic. Can you expand a little in acceptance and serenity and prayer and acceptance, as Dr. Paul explained? I think Sandy has just been drilling that this weekend, that acceptance, being able to be present to what's going on in our lives, being able to, one of the terms we use in AA, being able to live life on life's terms. They wrote a book on it, so I think that's almost all we've been talking about. I really do think, rather than trying to find a technique to improve our lives, we're finding a technique to be in front of life in a way that we can treat it and deal with it as it is, and not make up a story about it and get lost in it.
Thanks, Bob. Why isn't working with others emphasized more in AA?
These must be some of the questions. The same questions as yesterday. Same questions as yesterday.
Oh, are they? Did they all go back in the... Oh, my goodness.
We'll let you know if it's a new one.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Wait a minute, Bob.
The Yale survey, I have one here that I know is not.
I have heard that the steps are to keep a person from committing suicide and the traditions are to keep a person from committing homicide. What do you think about this? How true is this? I think it's clever, and there's some truth in it. And I love things when we come up with these kind of things in AA. They're fun, and they kind of capture it, but I think we can go a lot deeper than that. That's all.
Can you comment on the Christian programs that copy the 12-step, Nancy? I'm not very familiar with, but there's been a couple of AA ministers. The most profound one that I just went blank on, who was a friend of Bob White's, the largest unity, Tom Boland. There were different people that went into the ministry that clearly took the application of the 12 steps, changed the wording of them so that they weren't, in some cases may not, in some cases they got permission to use the 12 steps, in other cases they kind of changed the wording and had groups, I forget what they were called, mastermind groups, like in, that Boland did. I think it's flattering. That's what we did. We took the principles involved in the Oxford group and other sorts of things that we did that we thought were, that met our needs, and we changed the wording and we brought them into our program and we made them our own. So I do think that Bill Wilson and we in our fellowship have made a contribution to the world and to society. I think that the way we use these principles, I don't know where you would go to have a stronger spirituality coupled with a strong common sense and the accessibility along with things to do. Because I think in my past, when I've been exposed to a kind of a church sort of thing, I get the message, I kind of get a sense of the principle, but I don't know what to do. In an AA, we have meetings, sponsorship, service, make coffee, there are just different things that kind of help and encourage also the spiritual ingestion of what's going on, along with, yeah, that's enough, thanks.
I want to agree with Bob on that, that when any group wants to take our steps and use them outside of AA, that's great. So if they have a Christian group with the 12 steps and they're not in AA, that's wonderful. If they wanted to organize one in AA, a Jesus group meets Wednesday night, we shouldn't authorize it. And we shouldn't authorize a Muslim group, and we shouldn't authorize a Hindu group. And we shouldn't authorize an atheist group, and we shouldn't authorize an agnostic group. They all fit in the category of belief. This is my belief, and I want that to be part of AA. And what do we have? It's God as you understand Him. Everybody has their own. So there's no way that we can have that. I don't think there's any Jesus groups been authorized by New York, but they've authorized atheist groups and agnostic groups. And I hope they hear my voice that I think it's wrong. And I'm going to my intergroup and try to get a, oh, it's tolerant. But if you're going to do that, you got to have a Jesus group. And we're just going down the wrong path with this stuff. We're just going.
I want a Bob group.
Huh?
I want a Bob group.
A Bob group, okay. All right, I'll stop.
With that, sir, and why is it that when did the Lord's Prayer become AA-approved literature at AA meetings? I mean, that's a contradiction to what you just saying.
I'm sorry, you want a question on AA-approved literature?
No, he's saying,
The Lord's Prayer in an AA meeting, when did that start?
he's saying that's not a,
That's an exclusive group. Right out of the Bible.
It was copied from the Oxford group. Bill wrote an article in the Grapevine in the 40s or 50s, and everybody just said, we realize where it came from, but we don't have that connotation with it. And when people stay here long enough, they just see it as part of AA and don't connect it with anything other than AA. So that's what Bill's explanation was. The secret is to get over not liking something. That was the point that I made earlier. Okay. Why would I ever need to go to Al-Anon? Does AA program provide all the tools I would need? I went for 10 years in Washington, D.C. because of a personal situation, and it helped me see things. And mostly because the guys I played poker with said if I didn't go, they wouldn't play poker with me anymore. So I'll be honest. So I went there, and after a while, I liked it because I was a newcomer. And people would come up, what about, I don't know, I just got here. I don't know anything about it. And the other thing I'm going to say is, when I sat there and watched women come in and talk about their drinking husband and how it hurt them and how all this, I realized that I owed my wife much bigger amends than I realized. I had minimized the harm that I had done. And when I saw right in front of my eyes, it really helped me see the third dimension to this disease.
would you do this one?
I'm just starting controversy. You ought to be the ones that are. If an individual is disturbed, I like this. If an individual is disturbed by witnessing a child be beaten or raped or tortured, does the spiritual axiom still hold true that there's something wrong with him? And I would say yes. You can't help but be disturbed, but the spiritual part is to get as undisturbed as quick as possible so that you know the right thing to do, so that you don't respond out of hatred, fury, and anger, because then you're liable to do the same thing that you're so angry at. It would be like me wanting to go after the murderer of my daughter and chase him down until I finally killed him. What would that be? I would be on the exact same level as him. So I want to get undisturbed and then decide what I should pursue. Could someone witness this and not get disturbed? Impossible. Impossible. So the question is, can you get undisturbed before you do anything about it?
I noticed that the question about, could you talk a bit about the history of women in AA? Hazelden had a book about women in recovery. I wanted to mention that. The other thing today that's so wonderful is Googling. I'll bet if you took that, women in recovery, women in AA, that'd be a fun thing to chase down. And then looking, of course, at the taper tables. I'm having trouble calling people, including my sponsor. How can I let go of ego and open up? I think as long as ultimately some of these decisions are left to us in the control of something we don't do well, we're doomed to not doing it. If you have a pattern for a couple of months where you're not calling people and you're isolating, you need to find someone who you listen to. either in prayer or in a conversation of just saying, I mean, almost anybody who cares about you would say, get over it, make a call me tomorrow and tell me that you did it. I mean, it would be a relatively simple sort of thing, and something that we'd subjugate our own inadequacy, our own inability to do something, rather quickly. And I think that's one of the things we do extremely well for each other in AA.
Okay, this just came in, I'm sure. What specifically was taken out of the Grapevine articles that was offensive? Anything that went in depth into spiritual principles was, somebody would find a problem with that. Too much about God. And so it would be, God help me get sober, I'm so grateful, I'm happy, and I'm going to live forever after. But to go into how powerful the amends were that I made, I felt God's presence while I was making the amend, these type of things, I don't know why, but it just seems that somebody gets upset over that, and they get the letters, and then they have to respond to that. So I don't have specific letters. Another source on this is Ernie Kurtz, who wrote The History of AA, Not God. It's one of the best history books ever read. And as he was observing the modern AA, he found that. And there's a whole section on the watering down of the grapevine in his history book. Why am I answering all these questions?
because you're better.
So when I keep getting resentment with the boss, 16 plus years, how do I not react? I let go of fear of, can you see that? Being,
And get happy again. Being good or being happy again. I think I should
Oh,
the
I like
person's
that.
resentful at their, how do I stop being resentful? It's got 16 years of sobriety.
if you sincerely want to get rid of the resentment, if that's your top priority, and you got to inventory yourself and see if your anger is going to let you get rid of the resentment. Sometimes our anger is so strong, we give lip service to getting rid of it, but we secretly want to stay angry. So if we can get that out of the way and you honestly, sincerely want to get rid of this resentment so that you're more comfortable at work, find out something that your boss is interested in. Maybe he's a golfer. Maybe he's a fisherman. Maybe whatever it is. And just come in and say, hey, I saw this book about this. I thought you might like it. And start doing kind things. Just start doing kind things and see if your heart changes.
First, you guys are great. Second, what if you know surrender is the solution, you can't surrender and pray and meditate, and it won't go away, aka can't surrender, aka can't surrender? I think that has been my dilemma a number of times in Alcoholics Anonymous. When I had my kind of second surrender at 7 or 8 years of sobriety, where I was scared and fed up and really dissatisfied with my life and tired of having the defects of character that I had, and I had that kind of surrender. For 2 years, and this is not a recommendation, for 2 years I went to 6 o'clock Mass. My prayer at Mass was that God give me his mind. It was clear that I did not know how to correct my work problem, a very significant problem. So I asked to have my thinking changed. And you just get more aware. Because surrender is spiritual, you can't snap your little fingers, click your heels, and be back in Kansas. Because the steps are not mechanical, they're spiritual, they're of God. But we can open our hearts. I mean, one of the things when I talked about that little workbook that I'm doing now, what I liked about it is it made me do about 4 times the amount of work that I would normally do to do step 1, 2, in step 1, or step 2, or step 3. And I got my nose back into it, and it encouraged a sense of humility in me that I didn't have when I said, oh, yeah, I got step one. You know, and I kind of understand step two. I could do 5 minutes on that. That's it.
Okay? Before I get this one, I want to apologize to the gentleman who brought up the Lord's Prayer at the group. I think I was abrupt and didn't give him a fair hearing. And his comments are worthy of discussion. And any group that has a discussion on that and wants to change it, that's the way AA works. That's a group conscience. And if they do, then that's fine. So I'm sorry I could have done better. What is your experience on psychiatric
Medication,
medicine?
medicines,
Oh, medicine meaning pills,
yep.
as opposed to,
Antidepressants or that kind of stuff, psychoactive.
oh, when I have people that I'm working with, and I don't know if there's people like this in every area. We have a couple doctors in Tampa who are recovered alcoholics. They were also on pills and every other kind of thing. And now they're sober, and they are really good advisors on what is safe, what isn't safe, et cetera. And so if I have somebody who I'm working with and their doctor wants them to do this, I say, well, go talk to this doctor and see if there isn't something else or get feedback, but I'm not going to make a judgment on a medicine.
And to the extent we share too freely on that subject in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, I think we're speaking about outside issues. And I think in some ways we're going against our traditions. So I think there's an issue there. There's controversy in our group regarding whether we give birthday chips to non-members. I assume that means alcoholic non-members, not a chip to someone who was an OA or something like that. To chips to non-members or of our home group. Okay, thank you. What guidance can you give us to help solve this controversy? I don't think it's a controversy. I think it's a choice. There are groups that I will go to speak. There's one group I go to. It's a Pacific group meeting around the time of my birthday. They always ask me if I want to take a cake. I have a couple of times, but I'm not a member of the group. And it's and it's 43 candles. It's not it takes a little bit of time, and I've already gotten the attention of giving the talk. It just seems to me to be excessive. So the last 3 or 4 times that I've been there, I don't take a cake because I'm not a member and I'm not going to do that. But I don't think there's any correct way to do it. If your group is small enough or has the time and it fits and it coordinates with the meeting, it could be something you decide to do, and it could be something that you don't decide to do. And if you have a birthday chairman, that could be solved by having the cake gal or the cake guy know who to give a cake to.
That also reminds me of when group consciences don't go your way. You use that as a wonderful opportunity for spiritual growth and really look at yourself, because you were hammering in there. I want to make sure we boom, and then the group goes bam. And you realize they're not enlightened and there's something wrong with them and all of that. But see how fast you can go up to the people that were advocating the other thing and say, I think it's a good decision, and shake their hands. See how fast you can get undisturbed. That's a real good test of, when these things come up, these are spiritual classrooms. You only get it in reality. And so when it comes, you want to just go, oh, let me see if I can get over this quickly. Despite the several references in the book, including Dr. Paul, to the use of sedatives, there are those who decry any mention of drugs at an AA meeting. Oh, we had that? I'm glad. Would it be, oh no, you gave me this yesterday, okay. What do you do when you have done inventory and everything you can to change and have failed? And we did that yesterday. You stopped trying to change. Okay,
Do it again,
okay.
for me.
Oh, for you? Okay. What do you do when you've done inventory and everything you can to change and have failed? Then how do you change? I know that everybody's been in this thing, and it gets so frustrating. It feels like you're applying the program as hard as you can, and it isn't working. Look, I'm doing this, and I'm willing, and I'm doing all that. You have to stop trying. You have to let go. You're blocking everything with your frustration over the fact that it isn't working. And so you just get the white handkerchief. Remember that? I give up. I can't improve, God. There's no way I can improve. Please do it for me. And then just go to a movie or something. Just get away from the issue in your mind and watch what happens.
Thank you. How do you get a change of heart or bring it about? Again, these are things I don't think you can easily say in words. You can kind of point at them, but you can't. I mean, that's what we're trying to have happen to the new person who we're going through the steps with or that we bring in the program. I like a significant amount of what Sandy just said. I think sometimes what we do today, when I said there's more teaching about the 12 steps and there's more formality about it and there's more kind of codification about how to go do that, I think sometimes we get into the steps and we limit. Every once in a while I get someone who's doing a fifth step with me and it just seems too mechanical. They're using the same words over and over again, and it doesn't feel like, to me, like they don't seem to cover the whole tapestry of their lives. They're covering sex and resentments and fear, but you can, I think, hide in the structure of the fourth step if it's your intent to hide. That it doesn't mention gambling and it, and so forth. I think, when we seek, I think things open up to us. But I think we need to seek with a softness, with a gentleness, and with a persistence. I think when we look around, you will see in meetings that people are getting their answers regularly, and maybe for a time you're not going to quickly get your answer, and that'll be your time in the hallway. We talk about that a little bit in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I think if you start having conversation with people that aren't neurotic and aren't just intellectual, I think if you really start reading a few spiritual books that are out, sometimes doing something that is outside of your normal pattern of behavior, like grab a book on spirituality, it'll say the similar thing that we might say in our program, but it doesn't say in the same words, and it kind of offends your mind enough that you go, what was that? And you go back and reread it, and you say, hey, we say that in AA, and and it becomes a little bit newer, a little bit fresher, and a little bit more accessible to you.
On the fourth step, I don't know if it was old age or what, but I've changed the way I do that with the people I sponsor. We go over reading it and what the purpose is, etc. And then I say, now, what I want you to do, go home this week and write down 2 resentments and work out what's your part and everything like that and how did it affect this and bring them back next week. Nobody fails to do that. 2 resentments. Hey, I could do 2 resentments. So there's no resistance to doing the fourth step. I just got to write down 2 resentments, and everybody has some good resentments. So then they bring them back, and I just go over those, and then I go, that's very good. Well, you missed this point. Do you see how this might? And we're having fun. We're just going through the whole thing. And then I said, now next week, see how many more you can finish. Maybe you can finish all of them. Well, they always finish all of them because they realize this is going to be fun. And then when we get that, then we go into the fears and then the sex. And so as we go through it, they don't realize they're taking their 5th step. I think it's because as an old man, I can't sit still for 6 hours and listen. After
you quit drinking, how do you surrender your life for the second surrender? How do you do that? we've talked about that, but I think most of us ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, and as opposed to us surrendering, which we did, we were surrendered. Alcohol surrendered us. I think it's somewhat the same way in sobriety. I think the second layer of things that don't make maybe our first inventory, that are almost invisible to us, but the things that stop us from having full lives, having lasting relationships, having careers rather than jobs, being able to maintain good relationship with your children as good as possible through a bunch of changing circumstances and different ages, the sort of the things of an adult. And most of us have character issues that keep us from doing those. And as a result of being kept from doing those, our lives are diminished. And I think that there is pain. And many of us have that toolbox full of hammers, and we keep trying to unscrew nuts with two hammers, in coordination, and it's not working very well. So I think in some ways if our heart's opening up and we're moving in a spiritual path through AA, trying to do a thing, I think we get surrendered. I think our dissatisfaction becomes almost a divine dissatisfaction. It is, and when that happens, I think the ego gets suppressed. When the ego gets suppressed, we start letting go of old ideas that are blocking us in our way from discovering a sort of, Sandy's idea about he likes it when he's wrong. He's a little further down the road with that than I am. But it's that sort of thing because that's what you have to do, or one of the things we have to do in order to grow spiritually.
Is this one?
I think so.
I think that man left that was talking about the Lord's Prayer. Is that right? If anybody knows do you know his phone number? I'd love to call him. Can you help me out? Okay. Okay, I just want to fix that. Okay. Okay, thanks. Hi, could you please cover a little more of letting go? I think we did that, but you can't talk about that enough. I mean, there isn't a situation in our lives that won't be improved by letting go of it. Just imagine that your problem is a hot coal in your hand, and you're not going to let it go. You find out who put it there. That's the same thing with any other problem. It's exactly the same. It's burning you up. And your ego won't let you let go of that. Even though your hand's on fire, it's killing you. Resentments and all that, it's killing you. And something makes us want to keep holding on to it. One of the things we don't like to let go of is our old ideas, because they're ours. We thought them up. And so if you imagine all your old ideas are like these two fists, and you've got them, and they're yours. And finally, you almost die of alcoholism. You surrender the fact that you can't control alcoholism, and one finger lets go. You follow what I'm saying? Okay, now I'm free. Okay, I gave up on that. I'm powerless over, and look at what's still left. And all the steps are with your sponsor are to pull another finger loose. Don't you see you're wrong about that? Don't you? You finally get one. Now you're like this. I mean, we do not like to be wrong. We don't like to get rid of old ideas. How many people say this? I've always been that way. It's like an explanation for everything. I've always been an asshole. I was born that way. We're so stupid. Bill uses that that word in the book a lot. We were especially stupid. It's not complicated. It doesn't need psychiatric help. It's stupid. And you're holding on to it. You know what I mean? It's like you always drove down Route 1, went around here, and they built an interstate, and you still go that way, and everybody else gets there twice as fast as you. And you say, well, I've always driven this way. And everybody else goes, that guy's really stupid. We have an interstate over here.
He's talking about you, Linda. My wife, come on, I'm not. I drive the freeway. There's many locations that I drive the freeway home. She drives home the most beautiful way, past the nicest houses with the biggest trees, and so it is interesting. I find myself in listening to this. I mean, we don't like to admit that we're wrong. We don't like let go of old ideas. One of the things that has been in my way with respect to dealing effectively with some of what's in my life right now is that in order to deal with it effectively, I've got to admit it. With 42 years of sobriety, I'm doing stupid things and maybe even doing them for 42 years, and I don't like that admission. That doesn't fit with how I either see myself or would like to be seen in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I'm about 99% certain that that's what it is.
Well, we're getting down to the last 15 minutes before they have to leave, so we're just going to have to ad-lib some entertainment. What?
You've mentioned some spiritual book many times. Could you give us an idea of some that you found useful?
See me after the meeting. I'll give you a list, if that's all right. I'm happy to share, but I honestly think, in other words, people they go, oh, well, if Sandy read it and likes it, then I'll like it. Well, maybe you won't. It's really amazing how people give me books that I admire, and then they give them to me, and I go, God damn, what the hell's this crap about? How the hell could she be interested in that? What is this? But I don't throw it away. I put it on the bookshelf, and then 10 years later, I may take it down. What the hell is this? How did I get that? Hey, this is pretty good. This is really good stuff. So, I know this sounds silly, but I came across two of my favorite authors because someone told me that there's a section in the bookstore called New Age. And I went, what's that? I'd never heard of it. I had no idea what it meant. It was spiritual. So I went over there, and I just started pulling books down, and then one of them, and I'm just standing there, open in the middle, and whatever he was saying, I went, I like that, so I bought it. And that's in my bookshelf as, boy, I just love that guy. I love that guy. And so that's another way of, what are you doing? You're seeking. That's what you're doing when you go over. You're picking something up. You want something to happen in your life, and it does. So I'll be glad to give names of books, but I also think you'd be surprised how you just randomly see if something, boom, talks to you. And many years later, it may not talk anymore, and you'll be talking, it'll be something else, because you're at a different level, and that book's at a different level, and then, now the constant thing is our literature. That speaks to us forever. And the more I go through it, and the more we go back through it, I can't believe somebody changed this, this is that. And then it dawns on me the power of what's in there when you see it come to life in your own life. And I mean, it's probably just in the last 5 years I saw humility there's no way to get out of self-centeredness without humility. It is like somebody gave you the key to a jail cell. That's how important it is. Well, I just thought, it was nice, yeah, humble, I understand it. And then it came in, it was just like, holy cow, that you can't possibly get out of the jail of self-centeredness without humility. It can't be done. That was like another level of seeing something. And that goes on forever. But the more it goes on, the lighter your burden is, because you've gotten rid of 5,000 wrong ideas. And now you're after more. You go to see what else. But your burden gets lighter and lighter and lighter the more you let go and throw away. So you never get there, but boy, it's a lot easier with a 3-pound pack on your back instead of 50. It's a lot easier. Trust me. What else we can cover in 5 minutes, Bob?
One book he mentioned, Not God, I think it's a spiritual book. Ernie Kurtz also wrote another book called The Spirituality of Imperfection, which I think has a broad following, and a book that I will break Standy's idea is called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I think that there's some powerful things that Tolle is doing today that are effective. But I think if we do things that are out of our ordinary circle, which, like I think attending conferences like this for a lot of us, once in a while, you just get an idea that I'm going to go do that. Something happens over a 2-day period of time. It has happened to me. I am going home filled up with a better focus, being less self-centered, less a whiner. I am more impressed with the idea that maybe it is a lot simpler than I have thought it is. Yeah, but that's not a small deal for me. That is, because I thought it was too simple. And I don't think that right now. And I'm engaged with simplicity. And I'm engaged with the idea that what if you got it not to be a problem, which I think is a trick, but I'm going to do it. And that is really a significant portion of why I talk at conferences. It's the exposure to the other 4 or 5 people that are talking at the conference and the experience that I have cumulatively. I go back stronger, and I go back a little bit more willing to be a better member of AA. And I go back more impressed with the application of stuff that I'm not doing, or, I don't know. Just, my mind opens up cumulatively over a 3-day period of time. I'm more open on Sunday morning than I was when I arrived at Friday night. I hear things in a different sort of way, and so I want to thank you very much, and Mark and everybody. This has been a wonderful experience for Linda and I, and we needed it.
Frank had his hand up over there.
I don't give a shit.
Frank? You have 10 more minutes.
Go ahead, Frank. Yeah, it's going to sound a little bit like bragging, but it's our story. Our craphead, Peter, he went to 5 colleges, finally somehow talked his way into, his brother got him to go, Bill Pittman actually brought him to New York, got him up to Columbia, he talked his way into Columbia, eventually got a film degree from NYU, went out to Hollywood and worked for 7 years. He worked for Alan Ladd Jr. and different people, and he got stuck. Now, we always say don't leave until your miracles happen, and he decided to reinvent himself. Talked to his brother. He studied for the GMATs for about 4 months, took the GMATs, got into Oxford, went over to England, took an MBA, and as his interim study, he went to Dharamsala and filmed the Dalai Lama's 70th birthday party, and in that progression got an idea of doing a movie on spirituality, which he spent the next 2.5 years doing, and Bill Moyer showed it on his program a year and a half ago. And he interviewed Desmond Tutu, Deepak Chopra, the Dalai Lama. He had a couple of interviews with Marianne Williams. I mean, it's just the Grand Mufti of Egypt. I mean, it was really an extraordinary thing. And then Harvard gave him a full ride. He finished the Kennedy School and the World Economic Forum, made him a young global leader. None of us believe this. I mean, it just seems like a fairyland sort of thing. It's been kind of a 3-year ride with the wind at his back. He still needs a job. The but to watch the grace of God flow through that young man, to watch the miracle that was offered to him at 13 years of sobriety, it's just extraordinary. For me to know that I've always felt like I know what was best for him, I couldn't have predicted 10% of this.
Thanks, Bob. I think this is the last thing I'm going to comment on. I saw it in Ernie Kurtz's book, the history book. And Bill Wilson, in 2 or 3 letters in his later years talking about AA, came up with this little tiny phrase to describe AA. And the phrase was, AA is an utter simplicity which encases a complete mystery. And what he meant by that is, this program is so simple. Anyone can do it. It is that simple. And remember, we talked about simplicity is the essence of spirituality. So we have in AA the essence of simplicity. It's so simple. The problem is we like to complicate it and screw it up and make it this and that, and like it couldn't possibly be that simple, but it is. And it encases a complete mystery, meaning God, the universe. Through this simplicity, you can have access to all the secrets of the universe. Everything can be revealed to you through this simple way. That's a jackpot, because it's all there to be revealed. We simply keep pursuing this simple path. And at the appropriate time, more truths about yourself will be revealed. So we never deviate from pursuing this. And so it captures so much in one little tiny phrase. And I thought I'd just pass it on, that it's really something.
I just have a couple of things I was going to bring and I didn't. But when I said before, the process of finding God is a process of removal, not addition. You do not need more information. You do not need more technique. When we remove the things that are in our way, I was someplace and someone said, we don't, if you have trouble finding out what's spiritual, just remove, we know what is not spiritual. If we start removing the not spiritual, what is left is more of that. I think the process of finding God and finding the relationship that Sandy has been talking, and I have been talking about this weekend, is a process of coming home. You will find yourself where you have always been when you arrive at the end of that journey. As Chuck would say, what you're looking for, you're looking with. You are looking for God with the eye of God that is in you. I think in essence we are made in the image and likeness of God, and we have forgotten that. And we are like the king's kids who have been, they always have that movie about the one that's a prince and doesn't know he's a prince and is a pauper for a while and ends up at the end of the movie kind of knowing what his heritage is. And I believe that that is the journey and the mission of us here, is to find out what our heritage is. And that inside of us is something that is complete, intact, unchangeable, and does not need improvement. We just need to, with help, over a period of time, remove what obscures it.
Thank you all very much.
We hope you enjoyed this recording. If you are interested in other speaker tapes or CDs from AA or Al-Anon, please contact us at Sound Solutions, toll free, 1-877-893-2777 or visit us on the web at soundsolutionsrecording.com. We are also available to cover your recording and sound system needs. Thank you for allowing us to be of service and carrying the message.